it becomes a very, very powerful force. It becomes, people cannot ignore. If all the media channels are talking together about a subject, there's no way that it can be ignored. There will be change. They will be made accountable, which is really great. It just shows how powerful journalism can be. Until we move on to the next item in the agenda. So television state is in a constant state of renewal, a constant state of change, and it's an exciting place to be. So do keep watching this space for more. It will change. There will be more coming. Hopefully, you will see reports back on primetime again. That's my personal grouse as a field reporter. But it's just a crazy place to be. Who is number one? How do you define number one? I would say credibility, but of course, you need the money. News is so expensive, which is one of the reasons why most programs in primetime are anchor-driven. It's much less expensive to broadcast out of a studio than to send a reporter with an OB van and a team a few hundred kilometers to the field for a one-minute story. So number one, yes, we want the money, but we also want the credibility, the viewership, and all channels want you to watch. So when you make up your mind this evening, really, that's what we're wanting. Thanks.
You know, when Preet Dupar started this, you know, I was surprised that there was an underlying positive tone in the way she was saying it, because not just because you used the word vibrant. You know, there seems to be like, it's not as bad as we seem to make it out to be, you know. And when Maya speaks also, she says she seems to be operating in a world of possibilities. And rather than look at the possibilities only in terms of new technology, a new world, you know, I'm saying there is change already if you regress a little bit. As more people become literate in this country, they'll first begin to consume news in their own languages. And we never seem to reckon with what is happening with what we have called Mofussil news, or the Mofussil space. Now, Ravi Hegde has done some work both in television and in regional newspapers. He's now the group editor of Udayavani. And Udayavani actually, like, largely it occupies the imagination of a part of Karnataka, although it is all over the state. I want him to actually focus on this idea of there is actually a future of the local, of the extreme regional. And they're thriving. Some of the newspapers in Karnataka, for instance, are thriving. And you know, they don't depend much on advertising. So that is the future. Actually, they depend on subscription. They get people to buy it. Actually, local Kannada language newspapers who don't get advertising are very expensive, but they have a healthy circulation. So I want you to talk about that a little bit.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just before going to this Kannada newspaper and the hyperlocal contents, let me just define the news from the print perspective, because a lot of television journalists here, and I think somebody should stand up from print and say, okay, I'm a print person and this is the news from the print perspective. As an editor of a newspaper or a representative of print journalism, when somebody says that the media and entertainment or media and entertainment segment, M&D sector that is, or media and entertainment industry, it sounds a little odd to me. It sounds odd because for a journalist, media is not entertainment. For a journalist, media is not the same as entertainment, and media and entertainment cannot be on the same platform. The purpose of entertainment is entertainment, entertainment, and entertainment. But the purpose of media is not entertainment. For me, the media should sound something like, or as seriously as constitution, democracy, social justice, or something like judiciary or legislature. If we can bring media and entertainment on the same platform, can we bring judiciary and entertainment on the same platform and say media and judiciary and entertainment industry? Why? Judiciary is no less entertaining than media or entertainment industry today. Or can we say legislature and entertainment industry? Legislature is the biggest entertainment this industry is, India is getting. It is free. We get bonuses every day. So, but having said this, with a lot of agitation in, I've agreed, media and entertainment conclave. There is this thinking line, this resistance within. This is the clear differentiation between the print journalism and the television journalism. Television journalism, yeah. Why I say, let me just justify, because that's the clear differentiation, because this resistance. News channel and the entertainment channel works on the common platform like TRP. As long as the TRP and GRP and rating systems are there, they need to work on the same platform. There is no other way. See, as long as there is a drama going on television screen, people look at it. Some sober person talking like a 1990s Doordarshan channel, people won't see that. There should be some drama. One person should be slapping other, another person should be this one, and five people, one person should be shouting. And people will look at the channel. This kind of entertainment should be there. See, I say there is a little difference between the content, the channels they work on entertainment, GECs and news channels, because some Saas Bahu drama will be going on GEC, and some news-based drama will be happening on news channel. Both of them are fighting for TRPs. So this is where the news is lost. We always say, facts are sacred and opinions are free. But in the television world, what happens? There is the facts are lost and opinions are confusing. A lot of people come and talk, and at the end of the day, you're confused. Okay, what is the news? Why the people are talking about all these things? What the actual source was? You're lost. I find, as a print journalist, this is an opportunity. I'm not a pessimist, because as the day takes over, the news channels will take over, and to the end of the day, they complete their job. Whether they have completed half or full, nobody knows, but they have definitely confused the readers. Morning, for a print journalist, I want to clear, okay boss, this was the news. And this is the perspective. This exactly, as a print journalist, I'm trying to do, and I've told my reporters, please, you have 100 channels, consider this as your CCTVs. You can't have so many reporters across all the corners of the city or state or world or whatever it is. Consider this as your CCTVs. Find the visuals and go behind the whole thing and find out what the news is and report it. And I told my desk, bring the sensibility into the news and make it easily understandable. That's all. People want a simple 3-line news. So one headline, two kickers, and a small info box. That's all. So, thank you. And yeah. In trying to do this, see, you have seen, you can see lot of breaking stories that is coming up, and investigation, sting operation that's happening. But some of the biggest stories came from newspapers as well. You take about Commonwealth Games scandals or 2G scandals or whatever the scandals, they came from the print. And that means 24 into news channels are there, but there is a lot of opportunities for print as well, and we can come out with the most investigative and most impactful stories. And just to look at the regional newspapers, I am coming from a regional newspaper, Udayavani, and we are facing a little bit of difficult situation in this economic scenario. One, the metros like Bangalore, where the most of the advertisement chunks are coming to. I'm saying it is coming to. Even if I have some 10 lakh copies and 8 lakhs are from the villages and 2 lakhs for Bangalore, that 8 lakhs are considered waste, because 2 lakhs advertisements are coming for these 2 lakh copies. So this is the metro is an area which we get the most of the advertisements to. And in this metro area, readership is shifting from regional languages to the English language. So that means somewhere it's a threat for the regional language newspaper. On the other hand, the Indian languages are growing day by day, and that's how the circulations are also growing up. But they are to the rural areas. The cost of reaching those areas are increasing day by day. That means my revenues are going up and costs are increasing. So it's a catch-22 situation for me. So probably we can ponder on more on these things. Let me not finish off everything here. Thanks.
You know, Akar Patel is perhaps the most exciting columnist in the subcontinent today. He's certainly the most provocative columnist in our times. And while we went local, looked at the question at a micro level, you know, with Ravi, you know, I'm saying, is there something wrong with Indian journalism per se? Because in the developed world at least, they have crossed these questions before: ownership, corporatization, costs, declining circulation for print, for instance, cross-ownership of media, big ownership. They've seen everything. We know that 5 advertising agencies in the world control everything in the world, in media, for instance. We know that. They have the problem perhaps in a much bigger way than we have. Is there an ethical crisis in the Indian imagination? Indians, there's something wrong with us. That's my question to Akar, actually, because he's always abusing us, I think, in his columns, Indians, I'm saying. And, you know, there must be a valid reason, perhaps. And you also look at the way Indian television anchors behave. You know, I don't want to name anybody, but you see how television anchors behave. Is there a need to behave like that? What do you think, Akar?
We're a nation whose archaeological survey is digging right now for dream gold, so we shouldn't take ourselves very seriously. News is a very serious business. The problem of quality is not really a problem. If you look at newspapers the world over, they tend to be segmented. There is a quality end, which is a high quality end right on top. That's generally defined in terms of broadsheet. Culturally, it tends to be high church. By that I mean classical music, classical dance, theatre. And there is a lower end, which is populist, tends to go after the stories of specific individuals, celebrity news and so on. The problem in India is that we have very little of that top end, and most of the media, including what we would call the quality media, is at the bottom end. Broadly speaking, I would say that in India, journalism is poor, second rate if not third rate. And by journalism, I mean the product, the newspaper, mainly because that is the field in which I work, and in the people who make it. Why? I think the filter is very bad. Journalism is essentially about what you filter out, that you need to put something to your readers. You've got to block things from going to them. In our country, the filter doesn't exist in many publications. To the extent that it does, it's not a very good filter. Why? First, the problem of quality journalists. There's very little training. I've worked in 6 or 7 newspapers. I've worked in language newspapers as well, where it's even worse. But the amount of training that a journalist receives in the civilized world is not given to her or him in this country. A second problem, and that is related, is that because salaries are so low, journalism has never attracted the sort of talent that banking has, or even lower paying jobs such as the civil services tend to attract much smarter people than journalism. This is changing to some extent, but not a very large extent. I think journalism still is maybe 9th out of 10 choices or 19th out of 20 choices. We tend to assuage ourselves, people like Prakash and me, by saying that there is a higher calling, but at the end of the day, it should also be about money. Second problem is the morality of proprietors, a lot of newspapers in the West moved out of the family system and went into trusts. In India, that has not happened. Even our most venerable newspaper, the Hindu, there is a squabble amongst family members over who gets what job within the paper and so on. So, and all of it is like that. It's so bad in language journalism that many regional newspaper reporters don't get a salary. There's no money given to them. They are expected to make their money out of fixing something with the local district magistrate or the collector. And this is a norm. I've worked in a Gujarati newspaper in Gujarat, and this is the norm. It is not the exception. This is the rule. That many, many newspapers operate their Mofussil reporters without salary. This is the sort of standard that we have. The last aspect is that the readership is poor. I don't think that somebody said that the luxury market in India is big. It's not very big. We are 200 million people less than China. The consumption of luxury products here is 1/6. It's not a very large sum per capita. It's not a very large sum generally. If you have poor journalism, poor proprietors, poor readership, you will have media products that don't match up with the rest of the world. That is why, even though we share a language with very large parts of the civilized world, we're not able to contribute much to it. When Murdoch wants to hire editors, whether for his high-end newspapers or his low-end newspapers, he goes to Australia, he goes to England, he goes to... Very rarely is an Indian editor picked up and given a job in the US. And this is not because they are racist. They might be, but this is not the reason why. The reason is they're not good enough. And I would include myself in that. I'm saying that if we are unable to look at these fundamental problems, I've tried to be as little subjective as I possibly could. These are facts, what I've just told you. If we are unable to accept these absolutely basic things, there is no way that we can expect the larger picture to improve. It won't. No other market in the world has 40 news channels. I think we have more than 40. I don't think it's 40. I think it's about 100. The US has only 4. And the reason is, for them it's a serious business. They don't take it casually. They know that people have to be paid properly. They know that viewers and readers will not tolerate rubbish. If a newspaper in the US, if it were to be found out that the New York Times was in bed with the companies that it was writing about, that it was taking money for printing news, its readership would run away. That's not going to happen here. I think that is the reason why, despite a lot of fairly small changes that might come about in the industry by way of regulation and so on the whole, I don't see it improving in 50, 75 years.
Are any of the organizers here? I'm just saying, how much time do we have? Okay, we will do questions for 10 minutes.
I think that one of the most talented journalists in this country is Arnab Goswami. When you have, and I don't mean this in a snide way, I've been on his show. One very strange thing is when and this is true also of Rajdeep, when you go into an ad break, Arnab will ask what's going on Rajdeep's show, what's there on Nidhi's show. He's always interested in what the other channels are doing. I think somebody said that it's about monitoring what's going on. He does that really well. And he's able to understand his audience better than any other anchor I know. He knows where the quality of the audience is, that the English-speaking audience in India is here. It is interested in this, and he gives them this, and he does this really well. And that takes, this is about craft. This is not about morality.
So we can take questions.
How can right to press be justified, and like how far this is fine to a citizen?
How far this is fine? I mean, okay, I will give it over to you, but I think it is a very fundamental right, and you compare to jurisdictions in the Middle East, in China, where you don't have that, and you realize, how important it is. Any right will always have the risk of being misused. Yeah?
Yeah.
But it's sort of up to individuals, you know, as responsible citizens, you know, not to misuse it. But misuse will happen, of any right for that matter.
Just want to add that there is no right to press in India. It's a derivation from freedom of speech. That's all. There is no right to press anywhere in the world. There's only, I mean, there are countries which do have certain. There are sense.
No, there's no time for a second question. There are so
So,
many people.
so I'm just saying that when you're saying right to press, remember that it's just a derivation of freedom of speech. A journalist has exactly the same right that a normal citizen has in this country according to the Constitution. He has no special privileges. It's been given as a statutory thing by the governments as an accreditation or as a PIB card. These are things which are to facilitate us. They do not change your constitutional position. Like an IAS officer has a different position under the Constitution. A journalist does not. An editor does not in India. They are just normal citizens. You have exactly the same right if you go to a YouTube as a journalist would.
Actually, when you talked about, you said about the Delhi gang rape was highly focused in the media. But the same kind of a situation happened in Bangalore itself, that being a Bangalore journalist, why this kind of news was not highly focused in the print as well as the TV channels?
Yes, it's still happening. It is still going on around the country. It is very, very difficult to gauge, firstly, at a certain level, what it is, why this one particular thing and not that particular thing. To be cynical, yes, if something happens in the capital of the country, it is given more attention than if it happens in a remote village in Tamil Nadu, a remote village in elsewhere, or even elsewhere, even in the big cities around the country. That is a sad reality. That in the bigger cities, there is more attention paid to crime, to situations. That is a true thing. That is a very sad thing. For some reason, that particular horror of that captured the attention. I think it was a symbol of what was going on. It was a symbol of violence against women. It was something that could be identified and focused upon. When you talk about violence against women, rape, aggression, sexism, it's all airy-fairy. We can't define it. That particular rape case managed to focus, to give vent to the anger. I don't think so.
My question is on the try 10+2 ruling, which seems to be primarily impacting news channels because it's a huge dependence